Revenge of the Sith is hands down the best Star Wars movie that's ever been made. But would you believe me if I told you that the movie gets even better if you've read the Revenge of the Sith novelization? The Revenge of the Sith novelization gives extra scenes and details that will make watching the Revenge of the Sith movie make so much more sense. One key component to Revenge of the Sith is Anakin's struggle about trusting the Jedi. If you've only watched the Revenge of the Sith movie, then Anakin's mistrust towards the Jedi can seem a little rushed. But after reading the Revenge of the Sith book and watching the Clone Wars TV series, you really start to understand why Anakin mistrusts the Jedi. They have lied to him, they've betrayed his Padawan, and they have even come to distrust the Chancellor himself, even though the Jedi were said to be peacekeepers for the Republic. Almost every scene in Revenge of the Sith gets more and more detail in the novelization, and this is where it becomes much more clear about why Anakin thought the Jedi were evil. It also adds extra scenes that we get to see about Palpatine manipulating Anakin's thoughts. In today's video, we're going through every detail that the movie didn't cover and why exactly Anakin believed that the Jedi were evil. So now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Anakin's mistrust in the Jedi actually began much sooner than Revenge of the Sith. The Jedi let him go on countless missions to maintain peace in the Republic and to rescue people that they deemed necessary. But in Attack of the Clones, they wouldn't let him go rescue his mom on Tatooine. The Jedi also turned their back on his Padawan Ahsoka Tano after she served the Order with her life for years. The Jedi lied to him on several occasions, and the biggest being was when the Order made Anakin believe that Obi-Wan had died on a mission. His mistrust towards the Jedi grew even larger in Revenge of the Sith, after the Council assigned Anakin to work as a spy on the Chancellor. In the book, we get a deeper reason as to why the Jedi wanted to learn everything they could about who the Chancellor was working with. This is because they believed that the Chancellor or someone in his inner circle was either the Sith Lord or being controlled by the Sith Lord. They used this as the reason that they needed to spy on the Chancellor. We know that this time period is pivotal in the galaxy-wide war because systems everywhere are breaking off and leaving the Republic. The senators that remain in the Republic don't know who to trust because they don't know if there are secret members of the Separatists that still remain in the Republic Senate. The Jedi don't know who to trust because they sense the dark side all around the Senate and all around Chancellor Palpatine. They sense that the Sith could even have control over the Senate and possibly even Palpatine himself. They know that in order to save the Republic, they need to end the Clone Wars and make sure the Chancellor revokes his emergency powers. They recognize that the Chancellor has gotten so much power over the galaxy, and they assume that this is all part of Lord Sidious's plan. They fear that Palpatine or someone close to Palpatine has become corrupted by the Sith Lord. They assume in order to save the galaxy from being ruled by the Sith, they need to make sure the war is ended and the balance is restored within the Senate, so that one person does not have too much power. This comes at a very unfortunate time, because in the Senate, there's an amendment to the Constitution being voted on. This amendment would give the Chancellor authority over the Jedi Order, and even the powers to dismantle the Jedi completely. This sets the Jedi Council in even more fear, because this would mean that Palpatine has the ability to make it illegal for the Jedi Order to operate, and this would be a perfect time for the Sith to start taking over the Republic. Even the Senator Bail Organa knows that this bill is bad for the Republic and bad for the Jedi Order. In the book, we get to hear that Bail Organa has been dreading the day that this bill comes to vote in the Senate. He is afraid of what this means for the Republic and what it means for the Jedi. While the bill is being discussed in the Senate, Mace Windu and Yoda discuss the fact that they need to come up with a plan in case Palpatine is being controlled by a Sith Lord. They decide that they need to be prepared to arrest Palpatine if it is true that he's being controlled by a Sith. If the Senate passes a bill to make the Chancellor able to dismantle the Jedi, then the Jedi must be prepared to act before it's too late. Only a Sith Lord would want to make it illegal for the Jedi Order to continue operating. In order to find out which one of the members in Palpatine's inner circle was working for the Sith, the Jedi Order would need inside information on Palpatine's dealings. To further complete this goal, they plan to enlist Anakin Skywalker to spy on the Chancellor, so they could figure out if he was being controlled by the Sith Lord. This extra detail tells us so much about why Anakin was so angry with the Jedi and why he disagreed with their mandate to spy on him. The Jedi were suggesting that Palpatine was already corrupt, and they had already begun creating a plan to make sure he steps out of power. Then the Jedi ask Anakin to be a part of this plan, even though Anakin is great friends with the Chancellor, and Anakin trusts Palpatine to do what's right for the Republic. Anakin disagrees strongly with the Council, and he thinks it's incredibly immoral for him to have to report on the Chancellor's dealings. especially since it was suggesting that the Chancellor should be removed from power. The book tells us a lot about what's going through Anakin's head in this moment. He even defends all the special powers that Palpatine was granted during the time of the Clone Wars. Also in the book, we start seeing here that Anakin is starting not to trust the Jedi, and he believes they're operating in a way that he doesn't agree with. Once Palpatine knows exactly what the Jedi has asked Anakin to do, he takes this and uses it to his advantage. He asks Anakin why the Jedi would be so concerned with remaining in power. He suggests that it's wrong to have the Jedi Order make their own missions and elect their own leaders without the input of the Republic. Palpatine knows that this bill in the Republic will give him oversight into the Jedi Council. Palpatine, of course, wants to take this a step further and elect Anakin as his representative in the Jedi Council. Anakin tries to support the Jedi and explain that the Jedi are only looking to help the people and maintain peace throughout the galaxy. He knows the Jedi will resist having such an oversight within the Jedi Council. The Jedi will not take lightly the fact that Palpatine is now inserting his own opinions into the Order. He does try to explain to Palpatine that the Jedi have only the best interest of the people in their plans. But in the back of his mind, Anakin is beginning to wonder why the Jedi are going through such lengths to remain in power instead of working together with the Republic. It doesn't seem so bad to have to work together with the Republic. The Jedi tend to not tell Anakin their reasonings behind a lot of things, and this leads Anakin to doubting the Council more and more. In the book, we also get even more details about Anakin and Palpatine's conversation at the opera. The dialogue in the book is much longer, and it gives more of an insight on why Anakin is distancing himself from the Jedi. In this conversation, Palpatine explains to Anakin that he believes the Jedi are planning to take over the government. He says that the Jedi are trying to get more and more independence from the Senate oversight, and that he believes they intend to control the Republic itself. Palpatine continues to explain in more detail about his concerns about the Jedi Council, and the fact that they select their own members based on their own independent rules. Palpatine says it's kind of odd that the members of the Jedi Council are not elected, like a true democracy would be. Instead, they are appointed by its own inner circle. Anakin tries to defend the Jedi and says that they're only concerned with peace for the galaxy. But Anakin does admit to Palpatine that his faith in the Jedi has been shaken. This is where Palpatine takes the opportunity to guess that the Jedi have asked Anakin to do something that's immoral. And he assumes that the Jedi have asked Anakin to spy on him as the Chancellor. This, of course, is treason against the Republic. Anyone who would spy on the Chancellor could be going against the Republic, or possibly helping the Separatists. Palpatine is able to further plant in Anakin's head that the Jedi are creating a plot against the Republic. Because if they've asked him to spy on the Chancellor, then who knows what else they have done or are planning to do. At the Opera House, this is where Palpatine creates further doubt in Anakin's mind and introduces him to the ideas of the Sith. This conversation is much longer because Palpatine explains that the Sith goal is not too different from a Jedi's goal. The Sith want to create justice and security. Now, this statement might shock us as a viewer because we all know what justice and security really means to a Sith. To us, we know it means towering over everyone and ruling with fear. But take this opinion from Anakin's point of view. Anakin was raised in a time where the Sith haven't been spotted in over 1,000 years, besides only one appearance during the Phantom Menace. The Jedi are not taught anything about the Sith, and the Jedi purposefully keep information hidden about Sith teachings. Anakin knows next to nothing about the Sith, other than the fact that the Jedi have told him that Sith are evil. And since now Anakin is starting to doubt the Jedi, maybe he can now doubt the fact that the Sith are entirely evil. This is where the book gets really interesting because from Anakin's point of view, we can start to see why he might be trying to believe what Palpatine is trying to say, especially when we add in the fact that Palpatine could have the key to Padme's life. Anakin tries to tell Palpatine that the Jedi use their power for good, but Palpatine rebuttals that good is only a point of view. And in his point of view, the Jedi concept of good is not the only valid one. He explains that after doing research into the Sith, he has found that the Sith believe in justice and security just as much as the Jedi. Anakin tries to explain that the Jedi believe in justice and peace. Palpatine tries to ask Anakin if there is any difference between peace and security. He says in this time of war, the Jedi have not done a great job in bringing peace to the galaxy. So then who's to say a Sith might not have done a better job? This leaves Anakin to think about these ideas. He is left even more conflicted than before, because he has been raised to believe that the Jedi use their powers for good. But through the course of the war, he has seen the Jedi lie and turn their backs on their own, like they did with Ahsoka. He has seen them doubt the Republic and doubt the Chancellor himself. So if he's seen the Jedi be untruthful, then what other thing could they have lied about? Palpatine starts to explain even further about the Sith, and he says that the real difference between the Sith and the Jedi lies with their orientation. He says a Jedi gains power through understanding, and a Sith gains understanding through power. He explains that the Jedi is less powerful than a Sith because they have cut themselves off from feeling passion or love. The Sith, on the other hand, are not afraid to embrace all emotions, ranging from joy to hatred and despair. Anakin brings up a fantastic rebuttal point. He explains that a Sith only really rely on passion for strength, and after passion is gone, there is nothing left. A Jedi, on the other hand, removes the self and only cares about the others around them. Palpatine tries very hard to keep planting the idea that the Jedi could be evil, because he follows this up by saying, "Or so you have been trained to believe. But what do you really think?" Anakin replies, "I don't know anymore," and he reveals much more of his wavering beliefs in the Jedi. Anakin does try to defend the Jedi, that maybe they're only asking to spy on Palpatine for the good of the Republic, for the safety of everyone involved, just to catch the Dark Lord Sidious. Palpatine tries to convince Anakin even further that the Jedi can't be trusted. He asks Anakin, would a true friend ask you to do something that is wrong? To betray a friend, to betray your own values. In the book, we get a look into Anakin's inner thoughts because he admits that he doesn't know what to believe anymore, except the fact that the Chancellor is starting to make sense. He believes that it was wrong for the Jedi to ask him to spy on Palpatine, that they may have the best interest in their minds, but he has concerns about why they would resist working with the Republic so strongly. Why would they go as far as to move against the Chancellor entirely? This is where the book and the movie start to become one again, because Palpatine takes this opportunity to tell Anakin the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Of course, we know as the audience that Palpatine is doing everything he can to manipulate Anakin, to drive a wedge further and further between him and the Jedi, to plant doubt in his head and tell him that there is another way of using the Force. And this way of using the Force might even make him powerful enough to stop the ones he loves from dying. This is incredible manipulation on the part of Palpatine because he is crafting his argument against the Jedi in a way that makes it favorable for Anakin to start believing the lies. Anakin currently has no way of saving Padme unless he starts to believe that Palpatine is telling the truth. And if he could believe that Palpatine knows of a Sith power to stop people from dying, then maybe he could also believe his idea that the Jedi are corrupt. We as an audience know that Palpatine is using the one thing Anakin cares about the most to manipulate him. He needs to find a way to stop people from dying. He takes advantage of this fact and the fact that the Jedi are doing more and more to distance themselves from the Republic, like trying to get him to spy on the Chancellor. The idea that Anakin can't trust the Jedi after all is growing bigger and bigger in Anakin's mind. To Anakin, though, he is under so much pressure from the Chancellor and from the Jedi, and the thought that Padme might be taken from him. The conflict within himself eats at Anakin just as much as the nightmares about Padme. In the book, we see that Anakin has not slept since returning from defeating Dooku. For several nights, he's been kept awake by his nightmares, and now he's kept awake even more because of the conflict within him. Can he trust the Jedi, or should he trust Palpatine? And this question is answered when he is forced to make the decision in a split second. As Anakin hears Mace Windu trying to justify the fact that Palpatine has to be destroyed, Anakin just can't allow him to destroy the only person that might help him save Padme. He justifies to himself that it is wrong to kill someone unarmed, and if the Jedi can go against their ways now, then what's stopping them from doing it again? The conflict within him finally goes to one direction, and he stops Mace Windu's attack against Palpatine. This allows Palpatine to get the upper hand on Mace Windu and throw him out of the window. Anakin is instantly overcome with conflict again, but he knows he can't go back on his decision. He is now standing in front of the only person that can help save Padme. He has come this far and has chosen to believe Palpatine, so he does the only thing he can think to do, and he stands with that decision. He decides to trust that Palpatine is telling the truth. Trust that Palpatine wants peace and security for the Republic. He decides that the only thing he can do to help Padme is to stand with Palpatine. And with this decision, he takes his new position, the position he will fill for 23 years. Anakin will now become Lord Vader. This book is so detailed and adds so many layers to Revenge of the Sith. There's so many scenes to explore, and I'm going to make a whole video series about this, so be sure to subscribe and check back in a couple days for the next video in the series. Also, if you want to see more about Anakin, check out this video I did about why he is such an amazing general. He was incredible in the Clone Wars, and this video tells you exactly why. Now subscribe so I can see you again soon. May the Force be with you.